Right, and here we go. Welcome to episode number 35 of You Had Me at Halo, where we talk about one of gaming's most storied franchises. And this week, that story just got bigger. So we've now had a few days with the release of the campaign for Halo Infinite, and that is going to take up the majority of our time. We will say right ahead of time that today there will be no spoilers. We will actually have another spoiler cast pre-recorded for that coming up soon. But before we get into everything, let's go ahead and meet our crew today. First up, we got Spartan Mike, aka Mr. Kage Maru.
Hey, hello.
Next up, Spartan Jesse, aka Mr. Don Cabeza.
Hello, everyone.
Next up, Spartan Ursel, aka Mr. Soul Blazer.
Yo, I'm pretty exhausted today, so I might be a little quiet. Well, we'll see, but
It's all right. Well, there'll be enough words. We'll go ahead and take your words if you don't want to use them. So there's a lot to say. Next up, we got Spartan Daniel, aka Mr. Nadian.
Hey, gentlemen. How's it going? Really excited about this one.
We've been waiting a long time for this.
Yeah,
one.
this is the build-up we've been having to do an extra year and a month for.
I know. It's we started. God, we started thinking it was going to be a few episodes building up to the launch. 35 episodes talking just about Halo for a year and a half leading up to Halo Infinite, and here we are. And finally, as your host today, Spartan Abe, aka One Bad Mother. All right, guys, what have you been doing this week?
Nothing.
How much?
Is anybody here like on limited sleep or anything like that, or you guys been responsible with your lives? And
I've been fairly responsible.
sleep?
Yeah,
I remember that.
I've been sleeping in, but still staying up late.
Yeah. Mr. Mike, he usually stays up until he falls asleep on the mic. If nobody's ever been in a party chat with him.
Oh, so that's what happens when we're driving. And
Oh, in the game. Yeah, probably.
People who've been in late night party chats with Mike know what his snores sound like. So we won't go too much into that. So we definitely we got a lot to talk about today with the drop of Infinite. Obviously, we're going to save a lot of things for some future shows. We want people to be able to dive in themselves, and we want to be really, really careful about spoiling anything for people that really we know that a lot of people still been working all week, got kids, got a lot of different responsibilities. Some of you won't be on until Friday, so we're going to give some general impressions. And then we'll save anything more in depth for later. Before we dive into that, though, I guess there's a couple news items that we should talk about. So we'll just get those out of the way really quick. So we saw a little bit about the Halo Infinite show on a channel that nobody has. Did anybody already subscribe to that?
I think everyone's waiting for it to go live.
Yeah,
I've had it because of Twilight Zone. So yeah,
Paramount Plus, right?
yes. Yeah.
Is that
And
the
it's
only
going to
thing on
be
there?
Sky
No,
and most of the world.
It's actually got surprisingly more content than I would say some of the other services have. Like, I was surprised because I think I only subscribed 2 or 3 months ago, and it's got a ton more movies, which you would expect being that it's Paramount. But it's got a decent set of shows too, so it'll be nice.
As soon as it comes to Canada, I will give it a shot.
It's not even in every region right now.
Sorry.
No, they're waiting. They are literally waiting for Halo before they do their big launch worldwide. It's their prestige show, so
That's what makes me kind of excited about it, right?
That is interesting because I've heard, and actually I've said it. I was in the Discord. I was like, who the F was the person making the dumb decision here to put it on a channel that has no audience, but Jesse, I think and somebody said it there too. I guess the gist of it is that since this is a premiere thing, they are getting a lot of budget and creative freedom, right, to do this. So
Yeah,
Unlike-
it's supposed to be like a separate storyline or whatever.
Yeah.
Like parallel universe.
Right.
I'm hoping they sell it separately, so I don't have to subscribe, and I can just buy the season and watch
They
it
normally,
that way.
yeah, a lot of things normally end up getting sold once they air it all
Yeah.
the way.
Usually, what happens is the show comes out the day after it airs.
Yeah.
When you can buy it, because that's what I did for The Walking Dead for a bunch of seasons. Yeah. Because I just collect a bunch of Microsoft points by the season and get basically watch it for free. Don't have to subscribe or have cable.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, any thoughts, you guys? We got to see the trailer yesterday. What's your thoughts on it? Any
High
more
Charity
excited?
looked incredible.
Yeah, it really did.
High Charity looked good. Halsey looked pretty good. She looked younger than I thought she would. I haven't been following the actors or anyone that they picked for the show.
She's in her 50s, I think.
Yeah.
The actress.
Yeah. I think we're all just aging very prematurely, Mike, because like when Ming Na got on the stage and she's like 50 something, I'm like, Jesus, I look terrible. And I'm 30.
Mike's like, I didn't want to look older than Halsey, whoever's playing her. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of information on it right now. I mean, it's just worth mentioning. It's cool that they finally got a good budget. Hopefully,
it's cool that it's finally happening. Like what? We've been on the hunt for a Halo movie since like 2005 or 6.
And this was announced essentially 8 years ago.
2013, the Xbox One reveal.
Yeah.
Yep.
I still remember the Neil Blomkamp Halo project that got turned into District 9.
Mm-hmm.
Which wasn't a bad movie, by the way.
It was a great movie.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
And wish we got Halo still.
Only good movie. But
hey.
Okay, well, he hasn't made one better yet. Let me just say that.
His Alien movie would have been better, but then Ridley Scott took over and made that horrible Alien Covenant. But as much as I love Ridley Scott, that was not anyway.
But regarding the show, I think I read this somewhere and it made a lot of sense to me where they're like, in terms of like the timeline of the show, it's like how MCU isn't the Marvel comics, but it takes stories from the Marvel comics to make its own thing.
Right.
And that's what the Halo show is trying to do, which
because like direct adaptions of the books and the game stories and stuff, they just
never work out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
you don't need them.
Got to make it your own in some way where they're the inspiration and the fans will know where you're pulling from. But if you've got good ideas in your head, you've got to be willing to just do them.
Yep. Are they going to mess up Are they going to mess with the lore at all, or are they going to try to like keep that intact?
I'm sure there's going to be some diversions. I just hope it's not like Mortal Kombat, the most recent movie. If you've seen
you mean the one hearing about the tournament that didn't have a tournament at all?
Yeah, it's like I had to force myself to watch it in 5 different sessions because it was that
really.
Oh my god,
it's still enjoyable.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was better than
the main character was completely useless. I still don't know why he was there.
No, he was. I think he was
Wait, is this you had me at Mortal Kombat?
Is this you had me at game-related movies? Speaking of Sonic, too, the trailer.
We're just talking about adaptations that have turned out poorly recently.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, we always have the way they concluded Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones?
Oh, yeah, so I feel like they've lowered the bar for everybody to jump over. Good Lord, that was so good for a while, and then it just went
But
off.
Honestly, it looks like they're trying. Which is about all I can really ask. It doesn't look fake. It looks like they actually have some budget towards it. And Paramount knows that like even one good show is enough to just propel your service.
Did you like the way Master Chief's armor looked? I feel like they need to work on that.
In the trailer, I didn't. In the still, it looked pretty good. If you guys,
if it's the beginning of a mission, it probably will be pretty clean as long as you get scuffed and dinged as the
that looked too Halloween costumey to me. But
I would say there was something intangible, like I can't really describe it, but it seemed like, and I'm sure it's the challenge of having a suit that you actually that an actor has to wear and all that kind of stuff, but it did seem off.
So I think that could be something. Yeah, I mean that could be an interesting backstory, right?
The actor's pretty solid. I pretty much liked him in everything I've seen him in, so I'm excited to see how he takes that. Also, hopefully, looks a lot like Nick. By the way, I'm just or Nick looks a lot like him, I should say.
Does he tower? I hope he towers over the other people because he's supposed to be this
6'5",
7.
So yeah, if they're putting him into some stilts or something, it'll probably help because most actors are very short. So when you have a tall actor, they look very tall.
Chief is supposed to be 7 foot in armor, so I feel like they can hit that.
Before or after the librarian?
Or just watch any behind the scenes on how they film Tom Cruise, and you will see they can make people look way bigger on screen than they actually are. He is a tiny man.
Yeah.
Overall, I am cautiously optimistic about the show.
I mean, it's cool to see, like, and this probably ties us into our next thing. So, Halo does seem to have some mind share, huh? Lately. I guess
some of us might say it's pretty good.
It's been a couple weeks. It's not dead. People are still talking about it. So yeah, I mean, one other little news item, small thing, but kind of relevant to the conversation, is it did win the Player's Choice Award. Is that what that was for the Game Awards?
The Player's Voice.
Player's Voice, whatever, something like that.
What is that even supposed to mean again?
I don't know.
It's just the online voting.
So just a popularity contest. But at the end of the day, exactly. The thing that's interesting to me with that, though, is that for the Xbox platform, and we know it's on PC too, which maybe that's a little bit of a story coming out of there. Is it's less than half of the install base, right? And for it to come be the most voted by a long shot with just the multiplayer, I mean, that does say something. I think about the popularity right now. So in the mind share.
Especially when you consider some of the other games that were in there, because this year feels so what is time, right, with COVID, but there were so many incredible games this year that I just forgot about. It Takes Two, I forgot was February or March or something like that. So the fact that it was competing with Deathloop, It Takes Two, Resident Evil 8, you go through the list, there's some incredible games. So yeah, to your point, it says a lot, I think, that even just the multiplayer has been enough to carry it to the top.
Multiplayer with 3 modes and and
3 playlists, technically.
Yeah, 3 playlists. That's what I mean. I mean, there's a lot to come, right? And to see where it's at already is it's got to be very encouraging. And to be honest, I mean, they do deserve a lot for hitting that the core gameplay of it. The core mechanics across the board. I guess we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But so you guys have any other thoughts about that? Player's Choice, or what did you call it? Player's Voice?
The Player's Voice is the name he gave it, just to be something different.
What I will say is there's people that were claiming it was just recency bias, and you go back and look at the previous year's winners, and I think none of them were released within the last 2-3 months of the award. Yeah. So no, it's not recency bias. It's just a good game. That's okay. And
there's something also to be said about it too, because if you remember, Ghost of Tsushima got outvoted, across the board by the critics, right? Like Last of Us 2, and that's the one. If you think about it, I mean, it's the one that's kind of held up in mind share, at least in the conversations and stuff. So I think there is something to say about what the players vote on. I think that there is, it does give you a little bit of an indication of legs, but I mean, it's not a hard thing. It's an online voting popularity thing. And we know that's flawed data in a lot of ways, but I do think it's not completely irrelevant either. Right.
Yep.
So,
yep.
But, all right. Any thoughts on that? And then we can talk about the game.
No, during their award show, they definitely like to show the multiplayer in a lot of their clips.
Like every streamer they talked to was shown streaming Infinite's multiplayer.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people I've watched are streaming it a lot. It's really fun. Yeah, we know there's issues and there's things that need to be fixed and adjusted and whatnot, but at its base, its core is unbelievably fun, and that really shows in the campaign.
Yep. All right. Good transition there, Jesse. Segue. We're getting better at that. All right. We're going to spend, the majority of the show, and I don't know how long it's going to go because, like I said, we're not going to get into.
Yeah, we always go short all the time. Whenever we think, how long is this going to go?
Don't
it's really short.
Knock on wood, we're done.
So, all right, we're going to just start off with some general impressions, and then we'll kind of come back around. We'll talk about the gameplay, music, things like that, and just to highlight where everybody's at in this. Jesse beat it. You did the review on it. Great job on the review, Jesse. If you haven't checked that out, go. There's no spoilers in there, so go check that out.
Despite comments constantly telling me that I spoiled a bunch, I'm like, what did I spoil? And then they talk about something that's 2 minutes into the game. I'm like, I have to give the most basic starting point of the story. I can't just say you're Master Chief and there are bad guys, you go get them. Like,
if anyone's listening and haven't played the game at all yet because you don't have time, just play the first 5 minutes. Just get that like opening cutscene.
There was an opening cinematic we were not allowed to talk about, but of course IGN just put in their review.
That's crazy, to be honest. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. IGN literally showed a lot of it in their review, and then Kotaku just explained exactly what it was without any warning.
Game Informer,
it was the first thing in the NDA.
Game Informer did that with the preview.
Yes. I'm really glad I
put their 45 minute or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch it.
Yeah, that cutscene got me by surprise. This isn't a spoiler talk, obviously, but I'm watching it, I'm like, wait, that's not what the heck is happening. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was pretty badass. I'll just say that. That's a spoiler is I'll get on that. But that was I guess I'm lucky that I don't read Kotaku at all. I stayed away from the reviews. I really wanted to go into it. I really wanted to go into it with my own open mind and approach this as a Halo player. And what do I think is, because I know I've had these discussions with buddies of mine who are maybe not as big Xbox fans or whatever, and it's like, well, does it need to evolve? Does it need to do this to pull in a new audience? It's like, you know what, Microsoft doesn't need that anymore. They need this to be the best Halo for Halo players. And selfishly, that's all I gave a shit about. And that's kind of how I went into this. And as we'll discuss this, that's really going to be the perspective I'm going to come from. I'm not going to come from the perspective of, does John need to explore his daddy or mommy issues, or you know what I'm saying, like stuff like that. Like some of the stuff I hear is just ridiculous. And we'll get into some more details there. But everybody kind of go around and just to give the audience some context, we're all at very different parts of the game. Only one of us here has completely beat it, and that's been you, right, Jesse? And you're doing a second playthrough right now on your Legendary.
I started Legendary, got halfway through again on the review build, and then when that went kaput, it was gone forever. So I've been taking my time and just completely clearing the map Legendary for now. So I'm actually pretty close to where Mike was from what he said.
Okay. And Mike, where are you at?
I'm pretty much where 2020's demo was.
Okay.
That's right where I'm at. And it's really interesting kind of watching it or playing it with updated eyes, if that may, or updated build.
There's some really, anybody who's got there, like that's almost worth a whole segment itself. So we'll come back on that. But and what would you say, Jesse? That's about halfway through, maybe less than halfway through.
Depend if you're doing like full on map clear and you've been already clearing everything, it's probably a little more than half.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you've seen the map, the places you have and haven't been. Mm-hmm. You've been to more of the map than there is left, but it's pretty dense. And there's
it's interesting because I was able to get, I don't know if because I've hit a red wall, like I've hit a barrier, trying to get to a different island, I guess, or whatever you want to call it.
Please enter the battlefield.
Again,
right?
Which totally caught me by surprise. But I still think that I was able to get, because where it's not a spoiler, that tower that Master Chief jumps off of, that he jumps into the Pelican, that's in all the trailers. That area I got to by just jumping.
Yeah, that's
over
not a separate island. You literally just have to
go over the mountains and stuff. Yeah. But it was pretty barren when I got there. But then whenever I got there in the game proper, then like there were enemies and stuff. You were still able to do the side objectives and everything in there before you got there. And the The side objectives still had enemies, but the main play space, I guess, for the main objective was
it was pretty empty.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, what about you? So where are you at? I think you said you're a little bit earlier.
I haven't had a chance to play it too much. I'm flipping. I work at UPS, and it's Christmas season, so that
got a good excuse. Yeah.
But anyways, I'm able to play. I just before the show, I beat the tower in the 3rd level, which is one of the first. I think the second boss you fight.
Yeah, it's the 4th mission. It was the end of the previews.
I swear this should be the 3rd mission. I'm pretty sure.
Call it 4th. I don't know why.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They count
Outpost Tremonius. Yeah, that one counts.
Oh, Tremonius counts as the entire mission?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. That was like 20 minutes long. But okay, so 4th mission technically. I beat that. I'm going around exploring. I'm just trying to grapple wherever the heck I can grapple. Like if they give me, I unlock unlock immediately 40% to cooldown. I want more, to be honest. I want to be able to. I want 2 grapples on either hand. You know, as I go through this game.
Spider-Man. Yeah. You want Spider Chief.
But I'm finding myself like getting better at moving myself while you're grappling. You know, like it feels like that's actually a skill I'm learning. So that's really cool.
You're going to pick up. It's so interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about this too. But by the end of the game, you just start doing things that. Like you're like, I wish I would have known this like earlier in the game. I want to like replay some of those sections now. You know, like when you're sliding, spinning, grappling, you know, like it's just you'll almost pull off combos with some of the stuff. But Daniel, how about you? I think you've had a rough work week as well. So I think you're a bit early in the campaign.
I think I told Mike. I'm pretty much right where Ursula is, but I think I told Mike at one night I was like, I'm gonna log into work at 11 o'clock to get some stuff done, and then I might play, and I stayed up till like 2:30 playing after I got done, and then got up at 8. So it's been a rough week for sleep.
I've been there.
But yeah, like so I just finished the tower. I just discovered Skull and Craig's band, which was pretty rad.
Man, I missed that. I'm like the only one.
Yeah, but I actually kind of put off the tower because I was
doing other stuff.
Just so enthralled with just exploring. Like it's a great map, like in the sense that not only do you not have stuff everywhere like certain other publishers' games, Ubisoft, but it's also there's so many unmarked kind of emergent moments that you run into that's kind of grabbed me, and you know, I'm sure you guys feel the same, but I've been surprised by the verticality of, you know, you look at the map and you say, okay, there's a point on there, but there's so much below or above that point, depending where it is, that really changes not only what equipment you have, but how you approach a situation. And it's just, I've just been spending so much time doing that. And because I got new speakers and because I've been testing some headphones for an eventual review for the site, I spent a lot of time just listening to the game, and it's incredible. I mean, you know, DICE, I've always said DICE makes some of the best sounding games out there, but I really think that this game probably sounds as good, if not better, than
by sound. You mean like everything, like ambient,
the sound design? Yeah, I mean, the positioning of audio cues, the density of audio. So, you know, you have all the sound effects for the trees and the birds and everything, and then you have a granular distance from that object to the player's ear. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I'd say half of my time I'm just kind of listening to things as I'm walking around instead of rushing to the next point or whatever.
Yeah, you are the audio guy. So yeah, I was going to be interested. And you know, we're going to probably break this up into like some sections, because we're definitely going to want to talk about the open world game design, you know, and the gameplay and the sound, and then, you know, just really, really general thoughts on the story. So we'll kind of be careful there. But you know, for myself, I actually was right on the final boss before getting it. I was going to try to beat it before the show. I was so close, and I'm in like the last phase, and I feel like I got to figure something out here, because it feels a little bit like a boss that we talked about that's pretty difficult in that last phase, Jesse. I don't know if you remember, or if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't think you're actually at the end.
Oh, okay. Really? I thought, okay.
Don't have to feel bad.
Okay. So I mean, but I guess I was surprised because it feels like it's been meaty for me. I took a day off, and like you guys are saying, it's like once you kind of get enthralled in it. It was interesting when I first started with the first mission. I played it kind of like a Ubisoft game. I went to all the icons that told me to clear them out, and initially I was a little bit worried. I was like, "Oh, this could get old by the end," and it went in a totally different direction after that. I feel like. Because I didn't realize that maybe I didn't have to do. I mean, I knew you could. What's up, Mike?
I thought I had my phone notifications turned off.
The notification.
It was a Sonic ring.
Oh, okay. You and your Sonic. But yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about it. We'll start off with the
bosses?
with the design, the open world design.
Yeah.
First of all, like general impression.
I've got a hot take.
Oh, okay. Well, you started off then, Jesse. Let's start with the hot take.
Marines are just unbelievably powerful.
Yep.
You outfit a Razorback full of Marines with good weapons, and you can kill almost anything in that open world, and I love it.
Yeah, it's insane how many sword slashes, for example, a Marine can take. Like, I swear they'll outlast me.
They're not fodder anymore, at least not in heroic.
Yeah. They have snipers. If they have like that volatile skewer, they've got rocket launchers. If they've got the variant beam, they can blow up the dropships in like a second if they've got skewers or rockets.
Is it just me, or it's like they're hesitant to shoot the rockets? Like, it seems like
they
everything else.
Don't want to shoot them if you're near, is what I've noticed. They're about that big time too.
Okay.
Yeah, they definitely seem like they need
That's
to
good.
feel like they have a good trajectory to hit something if it's moving, and also they don't want to shoot it at you.
Okay, because you give them something like the what's that like mortar type weapon?
Cinder shot.
No, it sucks in multiplayer.
The Ravager.
Oh, the
yeah,
Ravager?
Yeah, the Ravager.
So good in campaign.
They go nuts with that thing. They absolutely go nuts with the Ravager.
So what's the general feeling on this? So it's not open world, right? Like it's a hub world. We just talked about the red wall, and
it's like Ocarina of a Time on crack.
Yeah, I'll say this: I've had open world burnout. I think we talked about this before, and
2,000 hours of open world burnout.
No, I don't. No, I have not got 2,000 hours.
So meta, Jesse.
Not even close.
Right over the head.
Usually, I know what you're trying. You're trying to do that.
Okay.
But anyways, no, I would put 10 hours of open world, get burnt out, and then go back to Halo 5, where I put in 2,000 hours of Halo.
All while talking to your dev friends about it.
Yeah,
and introducing new elements of the sandbox.
We're going to talk about that too. I appreciate that. It's not time for that segue though. So let's talk about that. Like, general thoughts, Mike. I want to start with you because I think, and I've talked to Mike, before he's fallen asleep on the mic at night and started snoring. And I know, like, when the first time we ever saw that reveal of the campaign where they show all the icons lit up. You and me both. You more than me though. We're a little bit like, oh geez, like that's not my Halo kind of thing, right? For me, this has gone over a lot better than I expected. How's it going for you so far? Where are you at? Like, how are you feeling about it?
Good. Really, really good. I mean, and I think everyone here will understand when I say that. Like, it's easy to lose track of time when you're playing the game.
Yes.
Which is always like, that's always a good sign. I do think that it does have some of that Ubisoft DNA still in there, especially if because unfortunately it does seem like outside of the propaganda towers and the, what do you call it, the
foreigner like areas,
yeah,
right?
the forerunner comms, like basically all the comm there's the propaganda towers, that's the banished, and then there's the audio logs, and you have the banished audio logs, the UNSC and the
And the rooms, right? The foreigner rooms with the weapons. Those are not on the map at all.
Yeah. Outside of those, like everything else is on the map if you
just got to zoom in
enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which
once you've got the fobs, like
once you got the fob,
right?
Yeah, and thank you. And so I do like that they give you a way to filter out a lot of that stuff. But even with that, I still and I didn't figure this out until I was already like 2 fobs in. But I explore the area before I even activate the fob, and I find that so much more rewarding.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Okay.
Just because you're naturally discovering things instead of even if you accidentally
getting a guide to say, hey,
yeah,
there it is.
Yeah. And to me, that has just been so much better.
And you'll still see the smoke in the skies. You'll still see the red lights of a banished base.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I love, that you hear the battle in the distance, and then you get closer, and Daniel will understand, like the audio. All of us will understand, like the audio is so good, like you can follow the gunfire, and then
Chief, the Marines out there need you.
Yeah. Yana will say, like, I'm getting some. I'm getting some Marines here. We got to help them out. And then you see, and there have been a couple of times where I was like, I don't see them. Yeah. But then you see the smoke. And that is exactly the type of experience that I wanted. So, if you do go to the fobs, and I did kind of groan a little or whatever, where the first time you hit the second open area, they just throw you right at a fob. It's like right there. And she tells you should get that fob. And I was like, oh, please don't force the fobs on us. But
fob.
Yeah, but like everyone's been saying, like I've just been exploring. It's a lot of fun exploring. It does. I do understand the criticism on the single biome, but it's nowhere near as bad as, say, Oblivion. Because Oblivion is kind of like one biome in a way.
Same.
And a little bit of snow.
A little bit of snow and stuff, but it's largely, in my opinion, like it was largely copy and paste forest.
Yeah, Oblivion's also awesome.
I love Oblivion. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but
we're talking about environment wise.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I got bored of just exploring Oblivion just because it was so samey.
And all the alien ruins that look the same.
And the Oblivion gates that were pretty similar once you've done them
also
2 times.
The same.
There's still I still have found some repetition in this. Like, thankfully, because like the second area you go to, they have another refuel teardown station, that type of stuff,
something.
And they also had another prison. So like the first area had a lot of the same structures as the second area. I was like, oh, please don't keep repeating this, but they haven't again.
Okay.
So that was the one thing that I wish they mixed up a little, was they didn't always require every base to have 2 UNSC audio logs, 2 banished audio logs, that like rigid, because what I found was that the banished audio logs are on the inside and the UNSC are always on the outside
outskirts,
perimeter. And sometimes a little far than what you would think. So I just find myself, surrounding, like running around this base endlessly until like I expand the perimeter of where I run. And it's always like, they're surveillancing like the base and stuff like that. Like, it's cool. I just wish they didn't hold to that rigid 2 and 2.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I was leaving a base and I'm like, okay, I guess I can't find the UNSC log. And as I'm leaving, I hear the beep, beep. I'm like, really? What?
Yeah.
It was up in the mountain above, right?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, Ursula. And I'm missing one from.
I am still missing one from that place too.
There's a couple. There's a couple that are like on a mountain overhead or on a big hill overhead. So a lot of times, if you can't find it, it's either in a cave or on a hill or a mountain overhead.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah, good to know.
So, because I found every audio log in every base so far, it's just that OCD.
Oh wow!
But they're fantastic so far.
I enjoy it.
They're good.
I've been really impressed.
I really enjoy it. And the voice acting is good. The one thing that I could stand in Reach is that anytime you come across an audio log or just Marine chatter, they seem too calm considering they were getting their yeah. Whereas in this, there's actual urgency, actual panic, and
they seem like they're pulling him out of like some of these out of scenes from a movie or something. Like you can almost picture it, right?
Yeah,
like you can hear like panic or no, I agree with you that there's some of those audio logs have been a real pleasant surprise. And Mike, by the way, and I know you may already know this, there is the other ones kind of hidden throughout. I found some in some.
You're right. There's the other one too. I randomly found that. I'm like, I can scan this thing. Okay, all right.
Wait, what are we talking? We're talking about the Forerunner, right?
Yeah.
I found 3 of those so far. I think 3 or 4.
I found one in like some valley somewhere.
Yeah, but it's weird because there's no actual audio. Like,
you have to go and click it in the database.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
For the first one, I had to do that.
And there's also there's never any reason to go all the way above Outpost Tremonius, like on the map. That's never going to say, "Hey, you should go here." Outside of, you find all the fobs, and eventually one of the HVTs is up there. But there are things to find up there too. There's one specific path above Tremonius that you can grapple over from.
Okay,
so you can do it before you get flying vehicles.
Okay. I think I found the HVT already. Maybe
HVT.
Yeah, if you've done all the fobs on the top of that. Well, no, if you only just did the tower, you might not have.
What's HVT? Sorry,
high value target. The
my God,
that give you the variants.
Yeah, those are fun. Those are fun.
Yeah.
So,
No, go on.
No, I was gonna say so. Like overall, though, the hub world design. Is there anybody here that wishes it was more open world or wishes it was more linear, or is everybody pretty much digging this change to the hub world?
I like how they have it.
Yeah. I was gonna say to Mike's point, there's definitely some Ubisoft isms there, but I feel like it's not necessarily a revolution of design, but it's a refinement, definitely.
That might be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of perfect. Like, I think if they do additional DLCs and expansions where they have other biomes and other areas of the ring, I'd kind of like it set up like this, personally.
Like one big over area.
Yeah. Yep. And then just your kind of contained linear levels as well.
Yeah.
Like this is, I think that works really well.
For like
surprisingly
expansions or maybe just a future update. There's some parts in the world that are relying on triggers instead of like a systematic or random thing. And because like I remember, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like there's that one large metal bridge. I don't know if you guys you guys should know what I'm talking about. But every time you go on the far end from when you first approach it, there's always a drop ship that comes in. And there's always things that you can kind of repeat. Or there was 4 Marines next to 2 mongooses that were perfectly good. Those are some little weird things. Like it kind of shows there's certain like design elements that kind of, I don't want to say highlight, but it make note of certain limitations. Like Marines don't drive, Whereas if you're coming across 4 Marines and they're next to 2 perfectly good mongooses, why the hell aren't you guys doing something?
I think they did talk about that though. They did say that because of the pathing and
no, I completely get it, but I think they should have had wrecked vehicles next to them, which would make more sense than why they're just hanging around there.
Well, I'm assuming it's to give you a vehicle, right? Pop up.
Yeah, I know. It's just it's little things that kind of like break the immersion for me because like, especially when I would recruit those 4 Marines, I go up around the corner. I think I hit a fob or maybe a base, and then I come back the same path, and there's 4 fresh Marines there next to the same mongooses. It's little. I hope in future updates they kind of just randomize some things instead of because there's certain predictable things that are in the world. But for a first attempt, the hub world they did a lot better than I thought they would.
What breaks my immersion is when I'm in a Razorback with like fully stocked Marines. I'm driving fast and I hit this small little bump. And the Marine's like, airtime. And like 2 seconds later, I'm completely flipped upside down in like a ditch. And I'm like, what the heck happened?
How about those Marines and grunts? So they're pretty freaking.
Oh my god,
the voice
grunts are amazing.
If you get like killed by a grunt, I had one go, what? What? They're hilarious. I had like a Marine that was basically like, it was almost worth getting captured to have the Master Chief rescue us.
Like, the chatter in general is really good.
Yeah,
it is
fantastic.
It's next level. It's hilarious.
I love the Marines. Like, I think one of them was like, I always like following you, Chief, and another Marine's like, shut up. Do you want us to get caught or something like that? Like the inner the dialogue. Yeah. Thank you. That it's always so good to hear.
The propaganda towers. You got to make sure you listen to, especially when the grunts are recording some of this stuff. It is hilarious.
If you get into a base and you haven't alerted anyone and you just listen to them talk,
oh, it's amazing.
It's so good. Yeah. And if you're fighting and then you hide and they're taunting of you and then they think you're gone and they start talking about you, it's just the amount of different lines they put in is staggering.
Yeah,
I cannot imagine. And then I would have been your daddy's skull. And it like friggin' doubled it. It's ridiculous just how many voice lines they have.
Yeah,
I can't wait for that skull.
Yeah, I can't wait to enable it.
Yeah,
because I turned it on. I still get all. Yeah, you don't get. I get all my achievements.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the one that's on the tower. So.
Yeah, Mike. So, like, and me being the other person that was a little bit worried, I'll say, like I said, early on, it felt a little bit like that. But a couple of things jumped out to me, and this one of these I won't go too far into detail because I think it's good for another show where we maybe talk about some of the, where we'd like to see it go, or potentially what we'd like to see them try to do differently or improve on in the next DLC. But I will. One of the things that struck me is that area that you're in right now with the big cannons. Like, I feel like that was like the aha moment for me, or something clicked where I was like, this is pretty awesome, like how they have it, because it gives them a lot of flexibility. Like when you're in these hubs and you start exploring them, it feels like an open world game, right? Like you can explore them. And when I went into like this, like when I stopped just following the things and started going up, it's like, all right, let me go up to that and see how high I can get up on that and take some pictures at the very top of the, of wherever I'm at. And, and then you find some stuff and you're like, what is the stuff you find up top? Like some of that stuff. And then, that level that you're at, the one that was from the 2020 demo, like that one, like the design of it kind of plays out differently than the ones before it, right? Like it isn't like you're going to the fob and then you're just like lighting everything up. Like, and you're going to these three big areas on the map, but it was a lot more. I felt like a lot more differentiation in the way that played out versus some of the other areas. And then the other thing that really struck me in that is when I got to that area from the 2020 demo, like if you'd watch my video playthrough of it, it would look like it's from a completely different level from where they did it. Like I went all the way around, I grappled all the way up to the very tippy top, looked down on like the cannons and like they were little specks, and you're shooting at them from up there and then jump down, and it was like played out very differently, and it and that's the thing about this, like that really kind of struck me, is just like how fun and how, like, I went and did like a marathon run for like 10 hours and, I tired out. I had to go to sleep and I was like, I couldn't wait to like get on there again. It's like just the way that they're able to just, they can do some different things. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the future, but it does feel like there's a lot of options to kind of play with the formula. And like you were saying, like they don't need to have a fob and this structure to it. Now, the good thing is I found that over the course of the entire game, it hasn't really felt like a cut and paste or anything like that. Like, especially as you get to the high value targets, they're all very different. And even the fobs, even though the bases look the same, like outside of it, it's like, it takes me back to CE. They use a lot of assets, but because of the way they remix it, you still remember how things are designed, and and it's just the different enemy placements and different, verticality of environments and everything really changes the way each of those plays out, especially if you're playing it on a, something that's challenging for your skill level. So again, I've been really, really happy with it. I do agree that, Mike, there's going to be some things that I probably will, when we get into that, some things I can think they can do to make it even more interesting for exploration and stuff. But overall, I see like they give you that golden path. So somebody that just wants to do the story, it's very simple for them to do it. You can take this like a linear game and play it straight through. And then if you want to go around and explore, like I was taking it, and then I was like, well, I'll do my completionist run on when I get to legendary. But then I started going off, and I just started having a lot of fun, like you're saying, just kind of exploring and stuff, and just that diversity. Like, just how it felt like different games when I flipped the switch and started playing it a little bit differently. I thought that really stood out to me. How about you, Sol? Like, what?
Yeah, to your question, right? The first one in this, which was, how do you feel about the open world? Too open, less open? So I've only played a little, but like, for example, I was not feeling fatigued, but I was doing the open world stuff. I'm like, okay, this is cool, right? And then just when I was feeling like a little tired of it, I went into the tower, and you had like those nice narrow fights, and it didn't feel like the last open world game I played was probably Phoenix, right? Which is pretty inspired by Breath of the Wild, and any of the non-open world stuff is for the most part like the shrines or the dungeons, which are just fancier shrines. It doesn't feel as important to the game as the open world does. In Infinite, it feels like even the smaller moments, the ones that are more narrow, more linear, are still just as focused on as the world itself was, right? The second level, for example, had some really cool set designs where I'm like, look, this looks amazing. So I'm hoping, again, I've only played like 3 hours. I'm hoping that continues more as you go over. Just when you think you're getting kind of tired, nope, here's a more focused level for you to enjoy and have fun.
Yeah, that variation of pacing, right? And Daniel, I know you're pretty early in, so it's probably a little bit difficult. But do you have any like initial thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, like I said earlier, I think it's kind of a perfect refinement of the Ubisoft formula. But like, what really stood out to me, I think about that first level. Do I?
I said you said that. I totally forgot you said that.
It's okay.
This is what happens when you've been playing Halo all week and like you're just tired. It's like, I got the memory of a hamster right now, but keep going.
Goldfish. That opening level was just like, I don't know if you guys were, but I was blown away. Like, I don't want to get into any spoilers, but the deformation of the level as you're escaping from an area. It felt.
Oh, I'm playing the level right now, so.
Yeah, it felt okay. Cool. Well, it felt like this perfect marriage of the opening level of Halo CE married with Halo 4's opening level.
Actually,
that's a good way to describe it.
Huh. But on such an insanely grander scale, and it was just like, I had a friend of mine who we've played Halo together for 10, 12 years at this point, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to get it, dude. And we started playing some multiplayer, fell in love with it immediately. And he was texting me the whole time. He's like, dude, this is like Halo 4 on crack. And I was like, yes, but the fact that it's like evoking those emotions and those similarities, those comparisons is a great thing, because, it kind of has that great traditional Halo moments. And then you kind of get your out of the vault moment really early on, and it just, I don't know, it's hard to describe and put into words just how cool it is to have what seems like you still have that classic Halo gameplay with some welcome open world gameplay that really encourages exploration, and that it rewards you immediately, rather than you have to collect 10 seeds to get this upgrade, or you have to collect whatever. It's very immediate, and like even the weapon variants, I've only found a couple. Like I found one kind of like you found your skull, Abe. I found one really early on because I fell off and I like grappled onto a Forerunner Minecraft tower or column and saved myself from dying. And there was, I can't remember, it was a plasma pistol, but I couldn't remember, Unbound, I think was what it was called. And it was there's those little cool unmarked just moments that are purely for exploration, but you're still rewarded for it, and it's just it's such a cool experience.
And that's one thing. Like when I first heard about weapon variants, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, can that break the? But they do awesome. I will say, like, it's going through the whole thing, because they don't give you everything right up front, right? Like, they kind of are careful about what they give you, and there is, if you want to keep that weapon, you're gonna have to, for whatever mission you're gonna go
make
on,
some hard choices.
Yeah, you're gonna make some hard choices and figure some stuff out. But like, that's always, I've had a lot of fun with that. Like, I get one, it's like, well, let's unwrap this gift and go try it out on some people. And then what's nice is you can use it up, and then it's like, I really like, there was one where I just got this hammer that just like annihilated. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go grab one more of those at the big spot before I go in this. And it doesn't break it though. Like, it's just more fun to use, but you're still playing the Halo. I don't feel like and even if you could break it, that's kind of part of Halo in a way, right?
Yeah, that's your reward for going out of the way and doing this stuff, right? Yeah. It's not like this bar that goes up in your inventory or
whose cat is talking to them?
Not mine.
That's me. Sorry.
It's more like, hey, here's this cool weapon. It's probably not going to last you more than the next 10 minutes, but go have fun with it, right? And that's pretty cool. Though I think this is my only real complaint. It's not a complaint, but I want a grunt mule or a mule grunt just following me around carrying like 6 different weapons at all times.
Like a caddy.
Yeah, 100%.
I was worried that the variants would break the rules of the game. Like you, Abe. I don't know what you were expecting, Abe, when you heard the variants, or any of you guys, but I was hoping that it wasn't like weapon customizations and stuff like that. So that you can add like an ACOG scope to say like the assault rifle, which would merge the roles and stuff like that. But they've done a really good job of keeping the variants still within its respective role, but having like a nice little spin or a twist.
It's a lot like the Halo 5 weapon variants, and that's why
in the campaign. Yeah,
or no, you mean in general?
I was worried, because in the campaign they got variants, but like I was worried that they would kind of go nuts like they did in Warzone.
Yeah, and where you're having like a sniper rifle that shot Gauss bullets and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't do anything. They don't do anything that really. I mean, they're fun, but they're not.
I wonder if they ran out of ideas at some point. Like, why not? Right? Is what at one point they're thinking.
YOLO.
But I guess button up my thought on the whole open world thing. One of the earlier episodes, I said that I wanted them to take the Halo level from CE or Silent Photographer or any of those open world levels and kind of like just apply modern technology to them. And it seems like that's largely what they did. And I especially felt that with where I'm at now with the cannons, because you got to get 3 separate cannons. Same thing with like the 3 separate batches of Marines in the Halo level, and you kind of approach it the way that you want. And they kind of went in the direction of what I was hoping they would.
Yeah. I think and let's go into that. Well, actually, Jesse, and I know this is going to be kind of awkward because you've said all your thoughts in the review. Is there anything you want to repeat or?
If anyone watching hasn't seen the review, give it a shot. It's by far the best review we've had on our site. It's well made. It's 20 minutes, but it's going to fly by. It's very well.
You might say it's the best Halo Infinite review, but
yeah, only one I've seen technically, but I'm still confident it's the best one I've seen.
Yeah, but see, in my review, I didn't say that the moment-to-moment gameplay is like a mix of Halo CE and Halo 3. I mean, I didn't say that because it's absolutely not in the actual moment-to-moment gameplay. But
all right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about gameplay. Good segue, Jesse. We always can rely on you for that.
Hey, Jesse, what are your thoughts? Segue.
All right, so segue. So Jesse, expound on that though. What do you feel? Because let's talk about the gameplay now. Talk about so I can say the word sandbox.
Want to say anything about the open world though?
It's exactly. It literally is just what I always wanted.
Okay.
I didn't want it to be like the people were upset when they were like, "Oh, they cut out 2/3. It could have been Breath of the Wild." Like it's like I found most of Breath of the Wild's open world
I don't want
empty and boring.
You don't need.
I didn't want that.
I don't need 80 hours of.
And Breath of the Wild's dungeons were just copy and paste with unique unique layouts for the same puzzles every time, like the same cool physics stuff, really cool chemistry stuff, like awesome systems in a world and story I never felt engaged with, was how I was with Breath of the Wild, whereas Halo is completely different. It's a really cool world with awesome physics and a story and everything else around it that feels so much more focused in a way. Because for all the Nintendo games and all the joking I do about Breath of the Wild and Mario, I legitimately didn't have any fun playing Mario Odyssey, but it's incredibly well made. And I could have fun in Breath of the Wild, but I don't want a Halo game to ever be like that. It's too open. It's too aimless.
Empty.
And I don't think I don't think like fast-paced action first-person shooters would work well if most of the time you're just sort of going around because there's just so much space here. Maybe there's something. So the fact that they took that extra year to put things back in, because like everyone, like Paul Tassi was like, oh, imagine how much did they take out? I was like, well, yes, they took a bunch out, but then Bonnie said, we cut too deep, was her quote. They went back in a lot of the extra year, was refining what they had and building things back up from where they had cut so much. And adding in some new ideas from Joe joining. So yeah, the open world for me was pretty much like the perfect size. It wasn't too long. If you want to go through and just do campaign, you can do that. Just the missions, though, honestly, on heroic or legendary, you're gonna have a really hard time if you don't upgrade.
It's hard.
Sick can tell you about. Yeah, because you need your abilities upgraded for the later parts of the game. It gets very difficult. But if you're on easy or normal, you don't.
Really quick for one last thought. Like, I don't know if you guys agree, but like the thing about Halo Infinite and specifically Zeta Halo is that the environment is as much of a character as anyone else in there. And I think that's why this works so well for Halo versus, even in some cases Breath of the Wild. So.
Which, and as you go through, and again, just really, really vague, the more you play it, I think the more that ends up being true, Daniel. Like the further you get in the game. And that was the other thing that really stuck out to me because, I was expecting at some point, like, it is like one biome, and that when we get into our next time, opportunities for the future episode, that'd probably be a thing that would come up a lot. But at the same time, these areas still feel different enough or have their own personalities.
Yeah,
it's hard to. And
again,
I don't want to.
They had a team that was entirely dedicated to the Forerunner side of things.
Yeah,
like I saw him on Twitter. He's like, he was the lead Forerunner architect worker. Like they had a literal team to have banished stuff made. They had a team on the open world. That was probably the biggest one. And then they had a team that wasn't on the Forerunner structures. Like everything got a ridiculous amount of love and care, so that they all feel fully realized.
There's going to be some areas that people will go into, and you're going to turn a corner. You're going to go down a path or whatever, and it's going to feel like a new, different level. And that's, I guess, where I'll kind of leave that at. But there's no snow level. Which I want.
The only thing we've seen is like there was streets. Like there's been some urban stuff in multiplayer, but a lot of the like the only thing that pretty much this game, unlike Halo 5, we saw most of the concept art. Like you can find most of that on the map, which is not Halo 5. Halo 5's concept art versus Halo 5's release.
And I different things. And I think that's I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the only one that we haven't seen, but we did see in a multiplayer map, is the desert stuff. So I do wonder if that would be the next thing we see.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that keeps this from being like an Oblivion for me is like it doesn't seem copy and pasted. Like everything does seem like it's placed and crafted and stuff like that.
And that's where the map size being small really helps, right? Not smaller. You don't need this giant sprawling map when it's just me grappling the ground closer to me so I can move quicker. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And like the cannon area that I'm at now, it's more like swampy. So like it's still within the same biome, but it's more swampy. I've hit other like open grassy areas. There's mountainous areas.
As Kurt would say, the Pacific Northwest is not just the trees in the forest.
Just redwoods. Yeah.
Like you can tell it's all within the same biome, but there's still enough. There's parts that I've come across that like the ground is completely charred from, I don't know if they try to glass it or just bombardment or explosion. There's enough visual storytelling or history without it being like thrown in your face that it kind of spices things up just when you think you might have seen a little bit too much green or something.
Areas have a personality.
Yeah.
Like they're not just the same. They don't feel the same, even if they can look visually similar in a lot of ways. Like the trees, like just on the whole, they feel distinct. And after you've played the game for a while, you remember what each area predominantly made you feel like.
Yeah. Oh, I'm already at that, like that first big area that you come across, the second hub world or whatever. I already know where I'm at just by looking at the area.
Hey, so I asked Jesse this earlier. Did they make it obvious when you're leaving like a hub world? Like, so I know
you can always go back to the hub worlds.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
The only, obviously, when the Pelican gets shot down, you would think I can't leave there until that's done. But the main thing you can't get back to until they add in the mission select is the missions that you have to load into.
Okay. Makes sense.
Everything else you can get back to.
When that Pelican gets shot down.
It's in the preview from last year.
You're right. You're right. It is.
Yeah, that was in the 2020 demo. I don't. By now, if you're watching, like, come on.
We fly to all these places. Gee, what happened?
I've avoided everything, but I've been listening to By now, like But anyways, I think that's a good way to describe it, Jesse. Especially like when you start throwing in crashed ships, and anyways, I won't get into anything else. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Okay.
So let's talk about the
gameplay.
The gameplay. Yeah, let's start there. I mean,
it's the best first-person shooter gameplay I've ever felt on controller.
Yeah.
Bar none. It's I had my multiplayer settings, obviously for making it a little bit more precise and reactive. And you've got James Shields is the one who put them up on Twitter. They felt the best to me. It's where you sort of make the movement as fast as possible, the dead zone as low as possible.
Yeah.
The speed it moves is slower.
The acceleration.
The acceleration is maxed out. So it feels like the moment I move, it moves with me.
Yeah.
And
I bookmarked that tweet. I need to test those settings.
I mean, you need aim acceleration max to go up against PC players anyways. So
and as you unlock all the abilities, I have started using my right thumbstick to jump to my D-pad, and then right, left, and that ends up feeling the best.
What?
So
when I'm swapping abilities, my aim thumb, it would look like this on camera. My right thumb, I drop that off my thumbstick and go to my D-pad to change abilities. I just find it faster than my left thumb because it's it's already there, so it's a real quick.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
And I've been doing that dance, jumping between grapple shot, thruster, shield, because you need all of them by the end. And also, I think the most powerful ability by the end of the game is definitely the threat sensor. So do not ignore it.
I use that more than I thought I would. Like there was a fob that I
still don't use it that much. I still use my grapple shot mostly.
If you're playing heroic or legendary, it's the best one.
There was a fob that I came across. Didn't see any enemies. None. Yeah. It was completely barren. And I just shot, and at that point, I had it upgraded where I could shoot two. And I shot two on both sides. It was cloaked elites.
And they're not. Once you have the two, they're also humongous.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
I got
like if you've got it already, and if you've looked at the upgrades,
I haven't looked at the upgrades yet. But
yeah,
interesting.
So it just
Ursula just got it.
Upgraded versions of everything. Well, I mean, you can see the upgrades the instant you get it. So next time you go, just look.
Yeah.
They just become so much better than you're used to in the multiplayer. Like
that's interesting.
The drop wall is not great in multiplayer. The drop wall is great in campaign. Threat sensor is okay in multiplayer. The threat sensor is great in campaign, just like the Ravager and stuff. Like
I never use a drop wall either.
You're right.
Does a drop wall help you against hammers? I don't think it helps
against what?
Hammers.
Oh. Jesse, you're right. I picked up the threat sensor, and I'm like, Jesse told me to use my right thumbstick during this fight, so I'm fighting the boss fight, and I was switching between them like this. Like, it was no time. Right for the grapple, right down first threat. I'm assuming right up, right left for the other things. It was it's instant.
See,
grenades too once you learn them.
Yeah, I'm still fumbling my right for the grapple is an obvious easy one, but I still fumble in the middle of battle. Yeah. And it's weird because I know that there's been criticisms or comments about them changing that for both grenades and your abilities, but I can't think of
another way
way of doing it.
Slow down
just pressing it to cycle would be terrible.
I was thinking about pressing the cycle, but that would be worse, I would think.
Slow down.
You can't get the one you want when you need it. And it reminds
when
me
you're
a lot.
in later fights, you'll hit all 4 abilities in 10 seconds. You need to get them really quickly.
I was gonna say the equipment changing reminds me a lot of the Last of Us 2's, but whereas that was cumbersome not only because it was more of a cycle and also because of the way the PlayStation controllers, you have to reach up, so you're kind of doing this weird octopus hand thing. This is much more intuitive because of the D-pad placement, but also because of the fact that they're assigned to a specific value once you hit that selector. Because I was thinking the same thing, Mike. I was having because I can't see those cues very well. So I've just had to start memorizing, which is assigned to the right, which is assigned to the left, and all that kind of stuff. But once you've gotten that, it's become second nature.
Makes sense.
That's been my only
advantage
complaint
for PC, where it's just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I mean, that's honestly been my only complaint. Has been trying to manage the equipment, and pretty much I stick with the grapple shot. Although I started to try to use the thruster near the end, and oh man, this could I'm actually looking forward to my second playthrough because I do want to start using some of the other stuff.
You're on Legendary, right?
No, heroic. I changed mine.
All right.
I wanted to give myself, just in my defense, I wanted to give myself an excuse to play it again once I got done the first time.
Also, am I the only one dying pretty often? I'll rush into a fight without probably thinking, and then I'll be grappling out in panic because I'm I have no shield. I got hit by everything.
Well, no, Mike's here, so we know there's at least one other person.
I probably died more than I thought I would until I upgraded my shield. My shield fully upgraded.
My shield's pretty low right now.
Yeah.
The only times that I die now is if I get careless.
Okay.
So, but it's still challenging though. And thankfully, the grunts are surprisingly good.
They're accurate.
I got melee killed by a grunt. I missed a melee on a grunt, and then he just punched me back.
Yes. That's another thing.
They've talked a bunch of shit. I've heard a bunch of them. So I'm joking about.
I got
about
you by an elite.
They've really have talked some shit. Again, I'm trying to remember some of the things they said.
But Jackal's melee too.
Oh,
I like that enemies melee outside of the elites and the brutes. But to go back to the gameplay thing, I forget what context Ryan put the whole one in Halo 1 and Halo 3, but it feels like Halo 5, in terms of just overall movement stuff, but it's got the openness, I guess, of CE. I don't know if this is how he meant it, but it does have kind of the Halo level or Silent Cartographer, but the sandbox, that actual sand with the physics and everything. Yeah,
I wasn't the first person to say that this episode. So
it's already been said 3 times, but
I even put it in the review.
Thank you.
I noticed that. But yeah, this is in terms of the physics integration into the sandbox, it's the most that it's been since 3. But you apply that to a large open world with the tight feel of 5, and it's a nice mixture of it all. And then for the first time, because they've been trying since Halo 3 to have a fourth pillar, and I think for the first time they've actually nailed it to the point. I thought it worked fine in 3, and I thought there was some value and like the equipment and reaching for. But the grapple shot, I can't see the grapple shot not being in any other Halo.
It always has to be a part of it.
Yeah. Maybe the other ones can go, depending on the situation, the environment, whatever. But the grapple shot has to stay now, because that to me has now cemented itself. Yeah, it's like a fourth pillar in the franchise.
Well, and for me as somebody who's Halo stayed my favorite franchise, and the thing I've always valued more than anything has been, the sandbox, as we like to joke about. But that's where I think I get what they were saying, Jesse. Like when they're saying CE and 3, like this feels like what had they just released CE and then released the sequel 20 years later. This is the game that makes them, like, that's the one that makes the most sense from a lineage standpoint, like CE and 3, right? Like this is obviously has its own identity, and I think that's something that 343 deserves now to basically, this is their franchise now. I feel like they finally put their staple on it. This is the most fun that I've had in a Halo campaign for sure. We can talk about some of the other stuff in some of the future episodes, but like from a gameplay standpoint, I agree with you, Jesse. I think from a first-person shooter, I can't think of anything that's more fun. That includes like Doom. That includes, I'm not a big Far Cry fan, honestly, because all the guns feel the same after a while.
The fun, thankfully, 6 actually was the first Far Cry that felt good to play on console.
but yeah, like those other ones just don't hit with me like this. And just how balanced and differentiated all the guns are. They all, most of them feel really good. And then you move in the equipment with it. I just started finally messing around with the thruster again, which was the Halo 5 staple, right? I don't know, like there's some, because of the quick movement, I guess that's where you draw the correlation to 5. But yeah, I think when I think about the early Halos, the things that always stuck out to me, and what I always wanted to, this goes back to Halo 2. Like, honestly, I don't know if I've ever shared this. The first time I played Halo 2, I was actually disappointed in the campaign. Obviously the multiplayer was different, and well, even that too, but it was fun with friends. And then eventually they got the BR playlist and stuff and made it better. But, but initially, like, I thought they kind of lost some of the identity of CE, where it was like, more expansive, and I would go to certain areas and play them differently, depending, especially as you increase the difficulty. To me, that's where Halo started to separate itself from every other shooter I played. When I first played it on normal, it had those really cool water cooler moments, like dropping on the beach and stuff, but it wasn't really until I did it the next time through Heroic, which was a challenge at that time. It took me a long time back then to kind of figure that out. It was like, all right, now I'm going to try to go in this direction and try to flank him there, get that guy, get that needler from that grunt and go use that on the elite, that kind of stuff. It was like that puzzle aspect, and that's what this game does in spades. This is really the evolution that I always wanted, and the thing that I again, 2 was a struggle, and I know there's people, some of you guys on this panel really do love 4. 4 was a disappointment to me, campaign wise, because it was just a corridor shooter, and I felt like it lost a lot of its identity. And this is the first time that I feel like now it's like 343, they get it, they get the most important things of Halo, and I think as a Halo fan, like, from a gameplay standpoint, it's probably as close to a 10 as anything that I played. It really since CE. And like this is the first time it's like they're putting their resources into the right things. It's all in the sandbox. It's spreading it out. You can bring your Marines back, and I'm back to trying to protect them. That thing you had in CE the first time, you're trying to keep them alive. It's like, I just rescued you all. At least one of you has to make it.
And that's the great thing about this, because like, and especially the older Halo games, you can kind of make like a meta game, like keeping the Marines alive.
Yep.
And that was kind of lost with later games and stuff. Whereas that's now like back in droves, and like, and that's the thing, like, like you said, like 4, because I equate 4 to like Halo 2, where they focused more on the graphics instead of the scope.
right?
And because you didn't have anything in 4 that was quite as large as something in like 3 or Reach, but then 5 they expanded the scope because of the power of the Xbox One and stuff allowed them, but a lot of the choices were, I don't want to say like artificial. Like, do you want to break through this wall, or do you want to, like, the choices were very holographed, I guess. And it's better to have some choice than not, but they really give you like player agency.
There's nothing obvious, right? Like you just
because there's nothing that's like a different asset or texture telling you that you can do this specific option here. Instead, if you want to go up on that hill and snipe them, you can do that. Like it's up to your like imagination or your
rewinding.
Huh?
Your shows are winding.
What?
What
did Jesse say?
My wife's shows were winding. She's trying to go to the bathroom after she paused it. And I'm like, oh, it's rewinding.
What is going on?
I was so confused. I have expected to look at the stream and expect it to go backwards.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Is this sign of VCR?
No, I'm just being a good partner.
Fair enough.
You're going to return your movie to Blockbuster?
To your point, Mike, I was going to say that even more so than any of the other, and regardless of 4 or 5 CE or whatever, I feel like this game has those, strategic choice moments in, not to use infinite again, but infinitely, right? Because it's about, because it's not just about how do you approach this. Do you flank from the left? Do you flank from the right? Do you go in with your warthog? There, because of the way the structure of the world and the weapon placements and the patrols are, like, it literally is, like I died kind of like Ursel. I died a lot because I was dinking around and just trying to rush in, and every single time I died, it was different. At least like how I approached that. I'd still fail, but I would approach it differently. And a lot of it was because I kept trying to keep this weapon, one of the special variants, and I was just trying to find an ammo container, damn it. But it's incredible how, like, even just thinking about that now, it's like, because what ended up, I went 3 different ways, finally made it on the third because each time I approach it differently, but just how much freedom it gives you to really stretch your legs, and that was before I really learned how to properly traverse with the grapple shot. Like, once you figure out how to change your trajectory and really launch yourself, like that opens up such a new play field, right? And same thing with the thrust. And I don't know, this is one of those games, like I've probably played every campaign at least a dozen times, especially because of MCC, just being able to fire them up and play a random level that I was like, man, I'd like to play that one again. But I feel like this one, especially when they bring in the mission select function for the story missions, so you can go back and replay them. Like, I feel like this is one of those games that I'm going to be playing for 10 years, just and not just because it's the only one. Infinitely. There you go. He said the thing.
And like to exactly, like, to touch on what Daniel was talking about, I think they lost it in 5. Every other Halo has had it. Not whereas
like 5, like what you were saying with 5, like with those points where you're breaking into the walls, it's like there was no point, because really you're just going to end up in the same spot, but there was no advantage to doing so. Right.
But like how you were talking about how no 2 fights played out the same,
or 2
like
deaths.
That's always and that's always been like a Halo. Even in 4, if you try to do the same thing, the AI was similar enough where the results would be different. 5, there was just so much shit thrown at you. It didn't matter how different it was, because it was just a yellow mess of yellow lasers and stuff to me. But in this, like, again, they kind of scaled it down, or they scaled it in a way where it's more focused on AI. Whereas 5, I felt suffered with the AI just because they threw a bunch of drones at you, I guess, that were just jumping around shooting
Robots.
at you.
You have to
I should just give this an A+ because I didn't see it in Prometheus.
Well, and because you could get resurrected all the time. So how can you make it tough? It's everyone has to constantly be under a barrage of gunfire.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna lie, it feels weird to go from 5 where I die. I'm like, it's cool, I'm still alive, to me dying and like, God dang it, there goes the checkpoint. Okay, let's play a little safer this time.
I gotta wait a full second and a half for it to reload me.
They're thankfully they're generous on the checkpoints in this.
Oh yes,
they do a good job with the checkpoints for the most part. I think like to me this isn't even like 4 and 5 to get together aren't even in the same ballpark to me. So from a gameplay standpoint, it's just freaking amazing. So you guys
I like 4 and 5, but this is like a totally different. This is like I don't want to say it's the first time that 343 gets Halo because they got Halo, but like I think they respected the lineage or the history more instead of trying to change everything just for the sake of change, and it worked out for the better.
They talked about how Halo 5 should have been a side story. It should have been ODST style. It shouldn't have been a mainline game. They think like this would have worked better as a side story, where it's its own thing. It's this 4-player focused Team Osiris, Halo Osiris or something, and not Halo 5.
The audio logs are really interesting, eh? Some characters get name dropped where I'm like, okay.
It's nice to hear Lasky.
I hit one.
They've got plans.
Yeah, I was like, hey, he's doing this. Okay, all right, whatever that is.
I found one where someone from Team Osiris was mentioned. I was like, that's nice.
I know that. I got that reference.
So one thing I do want to I think a final thought on the gameplay, and since we're talking about 343, though, it's worth calling out. Going in, I didn't, I wasn't expecting it to be innovative or anything like that. And I guess like on the surface, there's no technological innovation, but I feel
distance
like
at which firefights can happen is far crazier than any other.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. So
I was so happy about that. I remember talking probably a few times about wanting to zoom in. I wish we had a binocular, a zoom function.
Yeah,
like
just because of that. Yeah. Where I just love being able to zoom in, whatever the sniper is.
Actually needing 10 times because you start at 5, and if you click in the stick, you go to 10. And there have been times where I had to click in the stick to be able to really actually aim on people because I'm so far away. But they're fighting a bunch of Marines already.
Yeah. But but just saying that, I think there's because just like everything gets compared to Dark Souls and Breath of the Wild. I really think that 343 has kind of pulled off something here where you're going to see games compared to Infinite when it comes to the sandbox. I really think, and this is I don't know that this is getting called out enough because. Even in the reviews and things like that, because we're kind of looking, obviously we're looking for the things that aren't there or whatever, and looking at the surface level. But I think the more I think about it, it's like there's nothing that's even in this ballpark right now. Like from something that combines both. Like there's stealth games, like you got the Hitman and stuff like that. There's stealth games that have a sandbox thing, but there's nothing that combines something that feels this good action-y wise that blends all the different weapons and the sandbox that just happens at within a rhythm at a fast pace. It's just like it does both things so damn well.
It's the combat, right? It's you'll have these encounters play out a certain way. Like for example, if you compare it to games like Ghost, which I played a lot, or Phoenix, which I played a lot. At the end of the day, Ghost, Phoenix, even Spider-Man, the combat's the exact same. It's very similar. You're into the fight, you either counter, hit, or you do this hit, you do this combo hit. In Halo, it's like just the sandbox. You're right. I mean, the word is obviously meme to death, but you out of ammunition, you grapple a new gun to you, and suddenly your entire playstyle changes. You approach it from different. Even
nothing wrote about it.
Yeah. Even Destiny, which I would say is probably the closest comparison, if you had to pick one in terms of good gunplay. Destiny, the minions or the enemies generally spawn on you in the open world, right? It's not you going in and
not sandbox.
The enemies
great gunplay, but it doesn't have that.
Exactly. So it doesn't feel. It doesn't have the. I don't know how to even word it. It has like this
the versatility.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Because like the AI in Destiny is what kills it. It's nowhere near like a Halo game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm scared of grunts. Like there was a time where I got stuck, and I'm like, who the heck stuck me? And I turned my camera to that. There's a gun just in the little corner.
Clip that and just keep that in a loop somewhere.
Yeah, and part of the reason why you're so scared of grunts is because you're scared to get killed, and then they trash talk your ass.
Yes,
while you're waiting.
They're the best trash talkers in the game.
I'm like, come on, spawn me.
I like how they've got like 4 or 5 different people who voice them too.
Yeah,
and they're like different types all the time. And of course,
Jacko kills you.
Whenever you hear Staten and all the ridiculous things.
He wasn't so tough.
Okay, money now.
Oh man, but yeah, so we definitely need to get, like, I think that's going to need to be called out because 343 did set the bar in an area for a video game, and that's something that again
people are going to lose their minds over that. I'll tell you that much, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
So, speaking of something relating to this, and I read it at Era of all places, but it was so well done. The person was like, I feel like reviewers might have been underselling this game because I'm playing it and I'm having a blast. It's like I feel like they might have been cautious to praise the parts that are done so well. Yeah, and I can feel that. I can definitely get a sense of that.
Yep.
So any other final thoughts on the gameplay? I mean, I guess we were kind of raving over it. It's obvious that's kind of the unanimous, outside of weapons.
Infinite good.
The grapple shot is pretty much one of my favorite things in gaming.
Yeah.
Using that thing to traverse, to fight. The freaking punch.
Yes, the punch is so cool. That's why I died all the time, by the way, because I chose to upgrade that first. So,
and if you want to save your bullets too, you just grapple, punch them,
and you can miss. Right? I've noticed where
we haven't even talked about the fusion coils.
Yes.
Oh God. Oh yeah. How did we not talk about the fusion coils?
There's so many different things for every fight. Yeah.
Who knew those would be so addictive to pick up and throw?
Some would say it's infinitely good.
And I'm still, no matter what, I am terrified of the hard light ones.
Yes.
You have no idea where they're going to go, and I have died many times.
Yeah. I do like how if you blow up the big ones, and it kind of
chain reaction.
Yeah. It's kind of the closest thing to like the chain reaction of the grenades that we've seen since the earlier games.
Yep.
And if when you've got the shock rifle or the shock pistol, Mike, and if you find like metal things around people, if someone's in cover and you shoot a gun on the ground behind them, it'll arc to them and hurt them.
Yep. Yeah, I've done that.
So good.
Is it worth picking up the disruptor in the campaign? Like,
Okay.
And the physics. Yeah. We haven't talked about the physics, but like I've recorded tons of stuff where like I threw a grenade. It was really early on, and I threw a grenade at a brute, and he threw a spike grenade back at me, and they collided in the air, split off in trajectories, and nobody got any damage. But it was just like stuff like that. Again, like the little things, because that's harkening back to like Halo 3 days, right? Where you would set up those crazy trick shots, and I don't know. It's I haven't found something to complain about yet, so that says a lot.
I gotta say that I didn't think, and I still don't use a lot of vehicles because I like to traverse on, like, walk around or run around and stuff. But like, there are those times where I know that I've cleared everything between a fob and an objective that I need to go take over or blow up or whatnot, and I do like how I'm able to recreate the. Having a Marine on the back and then having another Marine equipped with like a rocket launcher in the side. So like being able to kind of recreate that at will when I'm not worried about missing anything is awesome. Really, really cool.
Also, the map doesn't
like just getting close enough to a Marine so that they become a big circle and they're with you, and just I will go and I will fight something 10 minutes away that I grappled to, and then in the middle of the fight, I just hear them start taking things out because they follow you all the way. They never stop following you unless they die on the way.
Really surprised me.
That's so cool.
Cat 3.
I was gonna say actually, I'm like, are they transforming?
It's because I'm standing, so they're like, "Hey, what's Dad doing?"
Rubbing the legs in.
Has anybody had a Marine drive them yet? That's the ultimate test.
No,
they can't.
I have
they can't drive.
They don't drive.
Oh damn. Okay. So they were like, "Yeah, we're just not even gonna do this." Okay.
Okay. Driving is hard enough, even with just me. Like the roads aren't roads. Okay, I'll tell you that. One small bump in my car.
I'm already.
Vehicles are meant to stay on the paths.
Yeah, I'm already dreading the campaign, the co-op when Mike and Abe and I jump on. And,
great driver.
We're just gonna be Spider-Manning it. You don't.
You
want
really have to stick to the roads if you're gonna go for a specific spot. You gotta see. Okay, I'm taking these turns.
Yeah. By the way, this would be for another show too. But man, this co-op could be next level.
It's ridiculous how good it's gonna be.
It's going to be next level.
And the delay because they said they don't want it to just be the Far Cry. Only the one person controls progression. Because you play Far Cry, only the host progresses. You can play through the entire goddamn game with them. Then you go to your own game and you've got nothing. They don't want that. And no, you didn't get achievements in Far Cry 4 and 5. I don't know.
Who the hell would want to join you then?
I know that's what's up. But so the progression. And also, like, the tethering and the way death and missions and stuff work, like, they really seem like they want to make something bigger out of it. I think Satan was like, we have it working. You can play the entire game in co-op right now, but it's like bare bones. It's kind of what people would expect for this, and we want to go above and beyond and do something better. And I'm really, really excited to see what that means.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun to go back to this again on Legendary and play it in a group. All right, so I think we got a lot of stuff in there on the gameplay, and our short show is already at an hour and 40 minutes. So I want to just cram everything else together: graphics, sound,
presentation.
Let's just put all that together. What's standing? Let's just kind of go around. Like, what are some of the things that stood out to you on that? Daniel, I guess we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, like I said, the sound design is incredible. Like if you haven't, and you've got even the Xbox wireless headset, which I think really punch above their weight. I mean, it makes sense. Microsoft made them; they subsidized, blah blah blah. But it sounds. Put it on Dolby Atmos if you've got the license, because it sounds incredible. If you've got a great surround sound system or a good 2-channel system, it's. Again, you can pinpoint distance and direction in ways that very few games do well at all. But again, it's like this. It feels like you're on a Halo ring, in that it's just so much dense sound. I mean, I could. There's a few audio, visual complaints that I have, but they're minor. But like, anytime that I start walking around and I've got my headphones on or I've got my surround sound on. It transports you in a way that few games really do well, and sound design is something that gets overlooked a lot. I feel like, I mean, even the Game Awards barely even talked about it.
They skipped the reward. What the?
They skipped it, but it's like, if you have a great sound design, it can transform a game just as much as good visuals. And this game is as close to perfect as I've ever heard outside of a Battlefield game.
Yep.
So. That's my quick take.
All right, Ursula, how about you?
All I'll say is that there are times where I'm feeling, okay, this fight's kind of okay. It's exciting, but it's also not too hard. And then all of a sudden, you kind of hear like the drums start picking up a little bit, and I'm like, okay. And then things start falling from the sky, and then like the music really picks up. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm in. And like, I've been playing at night, so I'm kind of tired usually when I play. But when that stuff happens, it wakes me up. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Mike, from presentation standpoint, what's been the thing that stood out to you most?
I gotta go with, well, there's been a lot. That's a lot. But like, I agree with on the sound. Like, I remember in a previous podcast saying that I hope they don't always have music so that you can like soak in the ambiance, and they definitely do that. And it dynamically changes well enough. I think only once there was this slower type of tune that seemed like it was meant for the open, like the outfield. It was played during a battle. But other than that, like the music dynamically changes really well. Yeah. Graphically, I think it's competent. I think it looks good. The game looks good. Does it look next gen? Not really. It looks good. It's a good looking game. The frame rate stuff during the cutscenes still sticks out to me like a turd in a punch bowl. Like that is
hopefully they'll fix it. I mean,
yeah. Well, they said they are. I'm pretty sure
there's a list of things that then that's why I didn't really complain.
I think cutscene quality itself is pretty flippin' amazing.
Yeah, the cutscene quality itself is really good, and it's the transition between gameplay, that whole one shot take, they did a really, really good job of. And it's like there's no pop in during loading and stuff like that, because like in the demo last year there was a bunch of pop in and a lot. It was really noticeable and jarring. There's none of that here. It's a solid looking game with some really nice touches. And it like really it's probably one of the best starting points. You know, it's probably the most impressed that I've been with a Halo game since 4. In terms of presentation and stuff like that. Audio definitely takes the cake. Like because like I think it was Battlefield 4 looked amazing back in the day, but I was bored to tears during the campaign because there was no music. It's just the audio wasn't there. But the overall package in terms of presentation is I would say solid to fantastic, depending on what you're looking at specifically.
All right, Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, pretty much. I just loved the way that, like, the cutscenes I have going now on the video and whatnot, just the feeling everything had of just time. Like, it didn't feel like anything was ever rushed. Scenes were given time.
Mm-hmm.
People in their dialogue was given time. It wasn't big and bombastic like 5 tried to be every time, because 5 had some unbelievably
Michael
cool
Bay
stuff.
Moments.
But then
Yes.
There were some pretty cool cutscenes, though, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but it was Michael Bay all the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then like all the plot points that were mentioned for a second and then dropped because they didn't have, like, everything about this just felt like, okay, we have this good stuff. Let's focus on making this good stuff the best we can. We'll drop out the stuff that isn't working instead of just, we're going to patch it together in the last second. We didn't get extra time. The presentation definitely feels like, okay, they had extra time. They were able to refine this in a way that Halo's never really been before with this type of technology. Because, like, 1 was very limited by the hardware. 2 was limited by the hardware, their scope, and then their time again. 3 was obviously like their biggest and most complete feeling of them until 4 hit. But it was always like so much of the important stuff got hidden. And I think, without saying any spoilers, unless you're an idiot, there's no way to have missed the main plot beats of the story.
Are you going to go on a spoiler cast and argue that?
Oh, man.
No.
Shots fired.
I would just keep calling people too dumb.
I'll go in your place.
Every major plot beat is contained within the dialogue of the main campaign and is not something you have to go and find like it was in 4, or it just doesn't exist like in 5. Like, everything's there. There's no motivations you won't get. There's context you'll get if you go for all the lore stuff. Like knowing exactly what happened with the Infinity side of things, knowing how it's been on the Ring side of things, the various new characters talking their motivations and stuff here and there. It adds to it. It's not 100% necessary to understand what happened in the game and why, unless you're just high as a kite or not paying attention.
Or both.
Oh, man.
So like
one leads to the other quite often.
Jesse makes a great point about the cutscenes and stuff, because one of the things, like, there were some good cutscenes in 5, but one of the things that kind of bugged me about the cutscenes in 5 is it downplayed the threat. They really wanted you to have like a power, they wanted to, they leaned into the power angle, which is fine, but like, in the opening cutscene in 5, you're tearing through like
you're never that strong.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, and then you get to playing
so this cutscene was not filmed in Legendary. That's
sure. Exactly. And it's just like there was no threat there.
But the first
cutscenes, there was no tension or risk.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, there, the cutscenes are great. Like outside of the,
I mean, 5 was just an action movie, right? Like an 80s action, like almost in a sense.
Whereas this, there's actual depth, and same thing like what Jesse said. They were given time to like the timing and the characters and what they're able to say. It has a moment to breathe, so you can kind of ingest it and appreciate it, and the overall pacing and camera direction. It's outside of the animation is the only minor complaint that I have. Other than that, that is easily the best storytelling or cutscene direction in a Halo game.
Yeah, the writing and the acting are just they feed each other so well.
Yeah,
and Jen Taylor is incredible.
Like, this is definitely like it's almost like Jen Taylor went to like I don't know, like she's like a different level in this game. I feel like she stands out to me.
She carries what the writing is giving her perfectly. Yeah, she's just so good.
Yeah, and there's only so much we can say about that until we get to the spoiler show. But I do think that,
nothing. Just
in my review, I say she voices Cortana, Halsey, and the weapon, and she does.
Right. I mean, we've seen Cortana in the first cutscene, like second cutscene. So yeah.
But yeah, she does. Like I said, I think she kind of steals the show on this one, and I would agree with you. I think from the standpoint of writing and then cutscenes, and I know like Halo 4 gets a lot of credit for its cutscenes, and I guess she did pretty good in there too. But this one just feels like it's another level. It's like they grew up.
And this one's got a better chief.
Yeah, like I was just gonna say. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
He's funny. He's the book thief. Like he's. But I mean, he's wry, but he's also he's more grounded and human in the sense that it just doesn't like he feels like an actual personality in a way that he generally hasn't in the games.
He's one note. He's not one note, but at the same time, you don't lose that ability.
He's still stoic.
And you want him, and this is the thing, I've argued with people about this like offline, but it's like you don't want him to become super duper developed because you're supposed to just feel like you are chief, you're in this world, like you're the savior. Like that's the whole gist of this. But you're right, they do a good job giving him just enough personality.
Speaking of the chief, and sorry, just really quick, and I've only played first 3-4 levels, so spoilers, be aware. But I was talking to a friend who hasn't played any of the Halo games. I don't know why, but I've been trying to convince him to. Either way, started up Infinite. I know, right? Started up Infinite. And he's
the clip I just showed, I shot a grunt when he was going to throw a grenade, and he went and then it fell right in his head and blew him up, and I love it.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
Nice.
That was the best.
I was gonna say,
your friend with Infinite.
Your friend who doesn't play Halo.
So he started playing Infinite, and he's like, and he starts asking me about questions like, hey, what with this character? They're talking about this character, talking about that character, and I'm like, dude, it's a mystery for us too, right? Play the game too, and like even if I've read the books, I've seen what happens in between the games. Right now, what's happening? The game is on purpose being kind of mysterious or not giving the full answers. And just a cutscene I saw recently kind of made it seem like Chief knows more than he's letting on to the people around him, which is really interesting, kind of seeing that
dynamic.
That dynamic, exactly.
Well, it's the little hints that isn't necessary for new players. And, I'll wait until I beat the game to see how well it kind of supports new players, since that was a somewhat focus for them. But like I do like the little nods where you're flying away. I think it's the first time you get into the Pelican after the initial time, and Nutana says it's so beautiful or something like that, and he goes like to some or something like that, and we know what he means, but on that note, I love that he's not chatty catty while you're playing him. I was kind of worried about that because of the whole, him talking about how much he likes the tank when he got in it.
Oh, I like
yeah. Which is cool. Like that, some little things here and there. But I was just hoping that while you're exploring the open world, you weren't chatting with him, because I did.
He never says anything.
No, and I like that because I liked that was one of the directions that I didn't really care for, that like 343 went in with. Whereas in the older games, when Cortana said something to you, you formed your thoughts, you formed your reactions, and it put you in Chief's role, or more so. Whereas 4 and 5, especially 5, there was a lot of chatter while you were playing as them, and it didn't take me out of the game, but it did, remove me from that role, I guess. And that's more so in this than it's been in the last couple of games, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, Mike, and this probably kind of brings it back a little bit to the overall presentation for me. I feel like what it does is it regained the identity of Halo, and I think that's like the biggest thing. I mean, besides the sound being freaking awesome, like again, like on top of the gameplay, like we talked about the sandbox being a bar setter, I do think. Your cat doesn't like my opinions, does it? I do think I do think the sound sets a bar as well, like the sound overall. Yeah. And this is the best the music has been. It's by far better than anything that 343's
I'm waiting for some of the more banger tracks I know that are coming, but so far,
like it is way. This is because it's hard not to say it's the best Halo soundtrack just because it takes like the greatest hits. The stuff Marty did, right? Yeah. That are already there, and they kind of add a little spin to it, and then they add in their own stuff, which is really, really good too.
But it's still within that theme. It still fits within that theme.
Yeah, and it just right. And so, like, we'll have to wait, kind of let it sit. It's like one of these things. Sometimes you have to give it some time to let everything sit because there's always going to be this initial excitement and things like that. But it really does like. It hits you right in the world sometimes when they just put the music on and you're just like,
games can hit that feeling, but Halo will go from being whatever to holy crap, I gotta do stuff.
Sometimes they hit you the nostalgia button, like they push that nostalgia button really like in the perfect spots, and it's like they know what they're doing because you get to certain parts. There was a spot where it was like by the way, day-night cycle, we didn't talk about it. So it adds a lot to the game to me. Yeah. Like, we went to a night cycle. I swear it felt like Truth and Reconciliation. We talked about, like, that's the first time I've ever seen the game was on Truth and Reconciliation when they had that moody sound playing. And it was like the same thing as like the moody sound. And then I found some Marines that needed to be saved. And it was like they just know how to, like, bring it all together and hit those nostalgia. And it's like, I agree with you, Mike, in terms of like, is this going to like be the next bar? No, I think this kind of falls into where 3 was to me. Like technically it's
I think that's selling it short.
Like
3 was beautiful, but like
except for its people.
The poly count and the image quality. There was a lot of beauty there, but it was muddied up because of the low resolution.
It's hard to put it like exact words because it's not like, you look at like Hellblade yesterday and it's like, it's not on that level by any means, but then it's like, it just does a good job regaining the identity of Halo. Right. Yeah. And then, and then it does it with the scale. So it does still give you some wonderment. It gives you some of that, like, because of all the stuff around you. Then you get to some of the, like I said, you turn some corners, you go to the edge of the ring where there's a bunch of pillars and it just, and you get up close and you see some of the detail in them. So there's some really impressive things. There's some not so impressive things that maybe hopefully they can iron out over time. Like we talked about the animations. I think some of the pop in is a little bit, when you get to like a high area and then you start dropping down, you're like,
even on Among Us, if you're going
there's those trees
in the shadows.
Figuring out a way to make the shadow. Yeah, I was gonna say the shadows.
Yeah, the shadows in the distance. Like it's and when I said pop in earlier, I didn't mean like drawing. There's definitely drawing that's still noticeable, and but that still isn't as bad as the demo. I meant in the game when you hit those very few. I think I've only had like 2 or 3 load screens. It's weird. Sometimes between the missions, it's a smooth transition, and then other times there's like a 2 to 3. Actually, the last load time I hit, I thought maybe my game might have crashed or something because it was a bit on the lengthy side, even on the Series X.
But it's funny. I died. Like I went back and I tried it again, and then it was fast.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't an every time thing because I had one of those.
But whenever you load into a level, it's not. It doesn't have that load, that pop in. Once you freshly load, that's what I meant.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But to your point, Abe, whenever I said that this is like in a way, the first time they get Halo, it's that identity that I'm talking about,
Yeah.
where they leaned into the history, but expanded on it and improved on it and stuff. Where it wasn't like, because 4 and 5 were more like, if who was the dude that did like the Star Wars movies?
J.J. Abrams?
Yeah, there's like a bunch of J.J. Abrams lighting and stuff in it.
The lens flare,
yeah.
This is really clean, right? Like it actually complements the gameplay really well, because it is very clean. It's really easy to see everything, right? You can you're never like, what the hell, where,
I do hope they make the night darker. I like how it looks. It's just a touch darker is what
they also talked about the gamma being slightly raised right now, and that's going to be fixed. So I think that'll help a lot with that, because I had the same issue, Mike, and then I also went to my stupid Vizio OLED where the latest update already increased the gamma even more.
Nice.
And I was like, what the hell? And then I went and played on the LG, and it's better, but yeah, they said they're going to be dropped, because like if you look at some of the loading screens on an OLED, they should be black in some of those areas, and they're not. It's because the gamma needs to be adjusted. So they're going to be working on that too.
So that would explain why the letterbox and the cutscenes are okay.
Yep.
Has anyone played it in Dolby Vision? I don't know who here has a Dolby, because I have not yet.
It's nice.
Even though my TV supports it, I've been running it through my capture card, so I haven't had a chance to use it. So and some of the Dolby Vision games before that they've officially it's
this one's good.
Okay. It still looked good then, but you can tell that it's an additive. That makes sense.
No. So also to complain about my shitty Vizio OLED.
I have a friend who complains about his too. Yeah.
I didn't mean to like.
No, it's fine. So like I can't run right now. They broke. You can't run Dolby Vision and 120 hertz, even though it's a 48 gigabits per second port. So I have to switch back over to. If I want to use Dolby Vision, I have to switch over to 60 hertz. Well, I forgot one day, and part of the update is they also broke HDR10, so like it's nowhere near as vibrant as it. The range just isn't nearly what it should be. It's better than SDR, but it's still not where it was. Well, Dolby Vision still works properly on there, and it definitely looks fantastic. It's the range. The like when you're in a cave and you can see kind of the little mist. It's not getting saturated, and it's also not getting washed out. It's proper range. It looks fantastic.
Well, the VRR in the game's kind of broken anyway, so you probably want to wait on that before.
Yeah.
But so I guess in summary, like there is still some technical things for them to work out, but I think this is going to age really well.
Considering how it looked and considering how it was last year, it's a very, very solid foundation to start.
And there's some really impressive areas. I can't like spoil anything, but like there's just some areas that you go through, and it's just like it does a really good job conveying, like you were saying earlier, like the world is like a character. It is, and it tells the story, and it fits in with the story. It's not just stuff that's there to look good. I mean, it helps convey that, and I think they do a really. It just does a really good job of the tone. It hits the nostalgia, it keeps the identity. It's the first time, again, 343's done this where I feel like they kind of get how to balance those things. So.
You really like this game, huh?
Yeah. I mean,
the nice thing too is that Joe and some others have already, like you said, kind of addressed some of these issues and said, yep, we're aware, we're going to be improving it. And, like Mike and I have talked about before, like this is a great foundation. And if State of Decay, or hell, even what we've seen with 343's done with taking over MCC singularly, and the improvements they've made to that, if this isn't a good indication that things are only going up from here, then I don't know what it is. It's
in the right hands for sure.
Yeah. And I think I would say really quick, I meant to mention this earlier. We talked about this being a perfect example of what happens when you give a dev time, and I hope that the critical. I mean, we don't know what the sales are of this, but we know it's a hit already. and really because of Game Pass, we don't care about the sales, right? It's about what sub numbers are. But I hope this is proof to, the people above Phil that you give a game the proper amount of time to develop it, you give it proper scope and the resources it needs, and you get a better experience for everybody. And I hope that this is the final, because we've seen that with Psychonauts 2 and some other games too that have been part of Xbox Game Studio staples. But having the big hitter prove that point, I think says a lot.
Yeah, so much attention put on it, because there wasn't
exactly.
There wasn't a lot of, if Tim Schafer didn't say about how they're given more time, we may not have known. Whereas with Halo, everyone knew they were trying to launch it last year, and the year delay.
Yep. This was a news piece actually, OBM, that we didn't mention, because everyone hyped it up. It came out and just kind of flitted away because it wasn't what people were wanting it or expecting it to be, right? The Schreier.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a hit piece or anything like that.
No, I was surprised. I thought for sure it was going to be this.
He said he was reined in, so if that tells you anything.
Game development has trouble. Was basically the article, but they pull it off. Which was also the other article.
Yeah, I think there's a lot Microsoft's going to, I think the 343 story is probably going to be something that will inform Microsoft and help, other executives. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, the fact that it's got delayed a whole year probably cost Satya his Game Pass bonus and another yacht. So,
but look at the blowback, look at the blowback with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And then you look
exactly.
And then look at look at how the shitheads are reacting to 343 now. Imagine how bad that would have been last year. So it was definitely the right call to delay it.
Yeah, and some of the devs that I talked to all were like, you could replace 343 in this equation for pretty much any big AAA production right now, and it would, and not even just right now. I mean, how many stories have we seen after
Dozens
a game comes out? So it's not as bad as it was made up to be before. So.
All right, good stuff. We should probably move to some questions so that we can everybody can eventually go take a piss and start playing Halo again.
Sit down.
Sorry, really quick. I do need to head out.
Okay.
I stayed a little longer than I expected to as well. I got some flipping errands to do before some places close.
Some packages to deliver.
God. Thanks, everyone, for having me on, and I will see you guys next week, where hopefully I'll be done more of the game than just a few hours.
All right.
So, see you guys.
Good to have you.
Later, Sol.
See you, brother.
All right. We want to quick fire through some of the questions.
Yep. There's 3, I believe.
Okay.
First one, good old Collingwood, a patron. Happy Halo launch day, UHMANS.
Humans, I think was how we.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. There are so many questions I could ask, but I'll leave it to the most important one. Is red versus blue coming back? Good old Collingwood. No.
Beep bloops.
Sorry.
There is an Easter egg about red versus blue.
I wouldn't mind, when they get their playlist situation sorted, I wouldn't mind it. Like a classic. It'd be cool if they did like a classic playlist where you didn't have any of it was just like classic Halo, and in that sense they forced red versus blue. I wonder, like, knowing them, they'll probably make a stupid event out of it.
If anything,
I honestly wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if he meant like literally red versus blue in the game or the show. So I had to
they're still going on with this show, aren't they?
I admit I've never watched it.
What?
You've never watched Red versus Blue?
We're not experts on Red versus Blue, I guess. But
here's
I think the one thing I can say, I do think there's going to be a lot of Halo shows spotting up over this.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of new.
And that's why we started ours, because we figured if this is good, it's going to be big. And then we had to go for an extra 13 months before we actually got to this freaking episode.
All right.
The next one from Podrick Payne. Belated happy launch day, you pack of informally dressed Marines chilling in your own personal fobs. My questions are: out of all the reviews you watched and read, which point made by the reviewers do you disagree with most based on your experience so far?
That's easy. Kotaku. Or at least the article. Maybe that wasn't the review. That was the article. That was the dumbest shit that I heard.
I haven't seen any of their.
They basically said the opening section of Halo was. What did they say it was? I don't know.
Like trash tier, garbage fire, essentially.
Something like
they
that.
said it was absolutely terrible and the worst part of the game. I'm like, what?
I feel
Every
like
comment on their article is like, this is classic Halo. What are you talking about?
They pretty much just exist to create drama.
And they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But anyways, I don't swear a lot.
They know how to clickbait.
Yeah.
Yes,
no, like the thing is, like anybody that's played Halo that knows, like that sets up the whole walking out, right? Like just like in CE, like that linear thing helps set it up when it opens up. So
I can see why some may not. I don't know. I don't get the being dramatic about it. Like I can see how some may say, well, I didn't care for the first 2 missions and I really liked it whenever it opened up, and that's fine. But what did you say? Trash tier? Is that how they described it?
They just said it was by far the worst part of the game and terrible is essentially how they worded it. Like it's not, but it's by no metric is it bad. It cannot be the type of gameplay you like, but it's really well made.
Just because it's not for you or it didn't grab you, that doesn't make it terrible.
So that question is a good time to talk shit about Kotaku. But all right, next question.
There is never a bad one. All right, in the second half, you can't be. No, we only want liars.
No.
Okay. The only review I read was yours, Jesse, because I wanted to go in, aside from that, as cold as possible.
I'm going to swap myself with Ursel. Sorry. I'm doing a little bit of stuff here. Sorry.
Oh, what the heck? What's going on?
I'm changing the way we look. And there, I think that looks better.
No.
Okay.
Oh.
No.
Should be good now.
What happened?
You have his. Okay. Okay.
No, I had to swap them all. So nice. Sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
That was it.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right, enough shelling. Let's move on. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
The second half of Podrick's, the second half of his question. And how do you feel about a guy like Jason Schreier tying his big investigative article to come out around, or in this case, right when a game releases? I know Nadian loves it.
Yeah, we just talked about it.
He's maximizing clicks. I mean, that's
it makes sense. Yeah, and it wasn't a hit piece, so
it obviously wasn't the story people thought it was going to be.
If anything, I'm actually happy it came out because I think the difficulties in game development, especially during these times, need to be more front and center for people, because everyone thinks, not everyone, but a large portion of the game of gamers just think that it's so easy, or there should be
flip a switch,
push of a button, push of a button or stuff like that.
Why didn't they just do what I told them? It would have been so simple.
Right. Yeah.
So having more conversation surrounding what goes on in these studios, I think, is only a good thing. And I think I didn't read all of it. I just read some of the excerpts, but like I think at the end of the day, the story was like, despite the challenges they faced, still came out with a great game. And
whoop, he dropped out.
Prague.
We all look weird now.
In our
1 second. I'm gonna have to jump to the 4-person overlay, which I don't know is active, so no one would be able to hear us if you were talking, because we all look real dumb right now.
With some obstacle and they get knocked down, and then you got this like inspirational music, and they come back and get the victory. That's kind of like how the article kind of seemed. I don't have the article. I finally read it too, Mike, and it's like the article's fine. Like I said, you could replace 343 with, aside from a few specifics in there, like talk about Faber and obviously having to bring in Joe, new management, all that kind of jazz to help kind of drive things. The article's fine. I think the biggest problem that I had is if you're going to release it on release date, make sure you do that for other big games that you have tie-in articles for, because that's the inconsistency, I think, is with the problem that some people had.
Yeah.
So that's all I'll say on that.
We only have one more question. That is from Mort, who was just talking in the chat to let me know the sound wasn't working, but I already knew because it takes like 2 or 3 seconds to kick in on the transition sometimes. But Mortanya, hello. Are the Banished the best enemy faction ever in Halo? Hugs, Mort. I think they're pretty great. I like the Covenant, the original Covenant. The Forerunner Didact stuff could have been good, but it wasn't given room to breathe, and then it was chopped off in a comic book. The Jewel and Dama Covenant was cool, but just way too cut down mostly in outside of the games. Yeah, and the best. This has been their best build up and execution of a foe for 343, and I think if they keep this up. And I really like where the story goes personally. I like that it's been a mix of in-game with Halo Wars 2 in its DLC, but then they give you a pretty solid introduction to them in this. If they keep expanding that and giving them more backstory, like their motivations on stuff are very good. And
they're not cliche.
I'm making sure I didn't do like a story spoiler thing.
And that
They're very deep, and they're also smart in a way that most enemies end up not being, where like enemies are just dumb, go at you, kill you, I want to kill you, you suck, I want to kill you. They get real motivation and stuff and real depth to their characters that I have liked, and I think they could eventually be the best antagonist since the original Covenant.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
The Jewel and Donna, I didn't like the motivation behind it, like he got touched or whatever. He thought he got touched by the librarian, and so he thought he was a chosen one and all that. And it did not. I don't know. I don't think that was
it was mostly through Spartan Ops and then killed off in the first level of the next game. It's like they knew
the motivation behind that enemy. Just I don't know. It didn't hit home for me. Whereas the Banished definitely, definitely the best since the Covenant. Like you can argue they're interchangeable, but I think that's a good the motivation behind the characters. Plus
fighting them is interchangeable, but they're as characters they are very different.
Yeah. Because
you will see like by the end of it, Mike, you'll start to find out a little bit more about.
I'm finding out more already. Yeah,
like Eshram is charismatically terrifying. That's the best way that
he is the best. He might be the best like single villain character. I'm trying to think. The best like individual single baddie that they've had in Halo. I think we'll have to give time to the Banished to see how they're fleshed out, because the Covenant, you learn more about them over 3 games, those first 3 games, and I think they became more interesting as you went along. So we'll see where they go with it, but I do think for sure this is the best 343's villain. I mean, the Prometheans are, you know how I feel about the Prometheans. So
the Didact and his story and everything could have been great, but then they just completely chopped it off.
In the game, it was not very good and interesting.
Definitely
better. At the end of the day, fighting robots is just not as much fun, honestly.
Yeah,
they don't have feelings and motivations and whatever. They're just stormtroopers.
There is one aspect of the story that I don't want to touch on because I'm going to see how it plays out. I'm there's 2 aspects of the story where I'm wondering where they're going at with it. You already know one of them. But the other one,
okay,
we'll have to talk about it in the spoiler.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it in the spoiler.
Yeah. We don't want to like accidentally trip over something here. We got it to the end. We didn't spoil anything.
Yeah.
Well, spoiler cast.
I did say that the plane gets shot down. That way, I saw a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Damn you!
Sorry.
All right. So we went so much for the short episode. I think we went 2 hours and 15 minutes or whatever.
Thanks, Jesse.
It's pretty short for us.
All right, we're just gonna like give final thoughts, and then we're gonna sign off. Final thought.
Halo good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
Halo good.
I stick by my review.
And I think 3 for 3 now has earned this franchise. I think it's in great hands.
We all knew the multiplayer was great, and there were things that they'll fix about it because they listen, obviously, and they've talked nonstop. I do feel like it was a bit of a push and a pull between devs and money guys on exactly how to do everything, and the very loud anger from fans is going to make the dev side finally win. So I think multiplayer will be good, and after playing the campaign, I'm like, this was everything I ever wanted. It's a self-contained, more personal story, but it's still just unbelievably well structured.
And it feels like a next-gen Halo in a way that we really haven't had in a very long time.
Yeah,
they finally evolved it. You're right. They finally evolved the formula. I won't say that it's everything I wanted because I always have things that I can suggest for the next time. But I do think it's in great hands, and this is the evolution that I wanted since CE. I think that's.
Would you say that the combat's evolved?
It's evolved, yes. To have infinite replayability and possibilities.
It's a solid, more than solid foundation. There are things that I'm curious to see what they do with whatever they would consider the sequel. Like there are areas now that they have this solid foundation. I do hope they innovate in their open world spin because there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, and we'll get on that when we come back. I think we'll start talking about some of the. The next times, what's in the future for Halo, like what can they do? But for now, like I said, I think we all agree. And I think I will say, like reading most Halo fans, like some of the most critical ones, I think most people feel really good about 3 for 3 running the franchise now. And this includes people that were very skeptical or cynical, like both multiplayer and campaign. So yeah, like there's still some opportunities to build on, make better, but that's cool because the foundation is pretty awesome. So 3 for 3 is finally out of the shadow of what Bungie used to be. So, but there's your cat.
Can't end it without the cat.
Yeah, cat wants out. All right, so guys, we good? Ready to sign off?
Yeah.
All right, Jesse, you want to do the sign off today? Tell everybody about the book and all that good stuff.
Yeah, if the Kickstarter. Well, if you go to our website, you will see listed a link to our Kickstarter. We have been funded as long as we don't have $5,000 worth of people cancel. And then it keeps going up. Thank you so much. You can go there. It's 20 years of Xbox. It's a full retrospective of the original Xbox, how it made us feel, and then a comprehensive breakdown of every goddamn game that ever came out on it with beautiful artwork from pre-drag. This book's going to be like 90% pre-drag. Then the rest is us doing a little bit of writing and a ton of proofreading. So we're going to be working on that as long as it gets funded. It's got 15 more days or 11 more days to go. We hit that funding total and it'll be out middle of next year. All the timelines on there. And that's XboxEra.com. You can just find the Kickstarter right there, a little down on the front page. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/XboxEra, which is by far the best way to support us directly outside of like the Kickstarter. That's number one. If you like what we do, you want to be able to see more of it, see more of our beautiful faces all the time, patreon.com/XboxEra. And thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you
everybody.
soon.
Yeah, we're probably not going to be weekly through the holidays, we're all going to be real busy. So we'll most likely see you in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.